Before we jump in, a quick note of who's behind this podcast. Imagine this. You're about to close this massive deal. You've been grinding for it. You're pumped. And then your customer's legal team decides to make things interesting. What happens if you get hacked? How do you protect your data? And then your brain just goes blink. That's the nightmare founders deal with all the time. That's actually what YSecurity solves, the sponsor of today's show. There are 40 plus security engineers who've actually done security at Apple, Uber, Microsoft, Robinhood, Brex, and so many more. And get this, you don't hire them, you rent them by the hour. No massive salaries, no expensive consultants, just real experts embedded in your company helping you get SOC 2, ISO, HIPAA, whatever it is that you need to close that big deal. Set a monthly cap, know exactly what you're spending, and close the deal. Head to ysecurity.io/startups and book your free strategy call. Your first 8 hours are free. 40 engineers, 1 full working day, totally free. Go take it. ysecurity.io/startups. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Security Podcast of Silicon Valley. I'm one of the hosts, John McLaughlin. I'm joined with Sasha Sinkovich, the other host, and we have an amazing guest, Neatsun Ziv, co-founder and CEO of YSecurity. Welcome to the show.
Hey, John, Sasha. Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure.
So for all of our listeners, would you like to share a little bit about YSecurity? What are you guys up to over there?
Ox was formed with the problem statement that shift left as a concept failed us for years. We've been trying to make it work, but it's just that everybody's got their priorities. It is super hard to try and fix security as we go along. And as technologies emerged, we started saying, hey, let's prioritize, let's do this, and constantly trying to push it towards the cutting edge of making sure that application security and product security actually work from the moment you start thinking about code up until it's running in the cloud. So that's a basic concept, but every year you see new technologies, especially now with AI coming into the equation, it just becomes mind-blowing.
You mentioned there are a lot of different things. How do you focus? Because it's important to focus. There's so many things we could be solving every day, but we cannot spread too thin. How do you guys figure out the question, what is the biggest pain point that we need to focus as a team?
First of all, I think it's one of the interesting things. You get a situation where you get the companies and you actually see that they've got 5 million issues. And you say, oh, this is really bad. And then you go one over one, just sample them. And you see that most of them are not relevant. And how does not relevant look like? I'll give an easy example. You see a password embedded in the code, but you see in front of it a comment saying, this is an example. Okay, yeah, it's not a real password. This is not a critical anymore. This is just fake. Or you see a lot of those cases where you're saying, hey, you've got this open source log4j, super critical. It will crash your system, but it's in a test application that is not running in production. There is no way to get there. So what a professional would do is they would go through a process to start triaging it, saying, you know what, this is not connected to the internet, this is not exploitable, this is not real risk, this isn't just a test project, and just understand the context. If you're going to push a lot of noise towards developers and ask them to fix things, what you're going to get back is actually they're going to ignore you. I used to manage a team of about 600 developers, and we've done this exercise, and it sounded very simple, just take the defects and fix them. And out of the 20 prioritized, they said, we are willing to fix 2. Say, why 2? Saying, yeah, that's a container issue. It's not exposed to the internet. It's internal. This is a lab. And you constantly get more and more details. What we had in mind is, why are we expecting somebody else to bring these details? Why don't we just go in and bring these details for you? It's very easy for us to know, is it live? Is it exposing API? Is this right now exposed to the cloud? Is this a live Kubernetes agent? Just all of this information is available, but we are just shifting it to somebody else to fix, and nobody's taking care of that.
All right. So it's kind of taking advantage of context to make security problems a little bit more relevant, a little bit more focused. It sounds like we could be connected to AI to help us speed that along. Is that the right path there?
First of all, yes. I think for years we know it's all about the context. So if we're just saying, hey, all you have to do is guess a bank number and a password to get into the account, and I'll give it the right context, yeah, that would be easy to guess that one. But the challenge is most of us are coming blind to those questions, saying, is it deployed to the cloud? I don't know. Is it right now exploitable, exposing any APIs? What does it mean? We're blind to that. So yes, it is context, but I think one of the advancements that we've seen recently is actually taking it to the developer and saying, maybe we could take it not to the developer itself, maybe we can take it to the context of the Vibe coding agent. And as part of this journey, we started getting to place saying, hey, if you've got the context in advance, why wait for the wrong code to be actually written? If we can load upfront the context saying, hey, you are going to touch right now with this request an API that is externally exposed. These are the database that this app is connected to. Those are the microservices that's going to be deployed in connection with. We want you to have those security restrictions and this rate limit and this sanitization. Here are examples. And I've already found a few passwords. Why don't I just move them to your vault and just do the work instead of shifting it to the developer that is already loaded? Why don't we move that to a Vibe coding agent with the right context? So with the right context, you can do marvelous things. I'm not sure what's the equivalent of the sentence, give me a big enough liver and I'll move a planet, to AI context, but I'm sure that there is such a thing.
No, I'm sure there is too. Just looking at YSecurity, it's like VibeSec, security that vibes the way that software is built. Unless you've been living under a rock, the software engineering space is absolutely changing. It's moving at incredibly fast paces, and there's AI agents writing code. And now as an engineer, we're a little bit more like almost managing these agents as they produce a lot of the code that ends up in production systems. And I guess the timing smells perfect to like revisit all of these hard security problems that we've been like manually slugging through, everything in our rearview mirror, all of our past histories. I'm super curious though, was there a moment that you woke up and you had this spark of inspiration? You have to be a little bit crazy to start a company, a little bit crazy to be a founder. You've clearly got a vision and you've got that spark. What was it like to experience that? What was that moment for you?
The moment that you're saying, I'm going to do that?
Yep.
Okay, so before starting Ox, VP, large security company, big department, like huge budget, accountability from sales to product, like everything that I wanted. But at a certain point, you do understand that large companies has this disadvantage that you can't do everything that you're doing and still focus on new projects. It's this or the other. And I think that there are a few books that describe it really well. But you basically need this absolute focus, and you need to be in a situation where there is no regrets, no undo. It's like you can't go back. You actually need to burn the bridge behind you. Option to go back to something that is easy, it's super tempting. After my partner and myself left the company that we worked for and started Ox, it's like you get to those moments in time that you're saying, oh my God, what have I done? It's like, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm sure you heard it from a lot of founders, but a founder's life, it's like a roller coaster. It's like, you never know if you're going up next minute or down. You just know that it's going somewhere that you don't expect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a roller coaster. And you also mentioned your partner, your co-founder. How did you guys meet?
So we worked together at the same company. We actually joined the company with a 2 weeks difference from each other. So we actually worked together for almost 14 years now.
So you're kind of like work spouses or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. We're trying to do like activities outside of the home. I'm New York based, he's Israel based. So we are actually trying to do like at least twice a year, do like a hike together, usually in US or Europe. And it gives us like a few good days to hash things out.
Amazing. Well, you have to have like that trust built up and rapport, because in order to ride that roller coaster of being an entrepreneur together requires some foundation there. So
yeah, well, he's got this amazing trait not to get excited from anything. And I'm exactly the opposite. So it's like he balances me off.
Okay, so there's complementation. That's really good. Do you also have complementation and sort of the focus and the skill sets that you're bringing to the table? Are you both security experts?
Yeah, so we work together at a security company. So we kind of have this very, very deeply ingrained inside of us. But one of the things I think is that actually the field that we're working in right now, It's a field that we always was in overlap with, but we never worked in this field. So this adventure of getting to a new field, learning everything, even though we kind of know it, getting to own it, it's a different thing. Just to own every detail in it. Saying, you know what, I can do this better. Like I've tested other products. I know why they failed miserably, and we have a shot at doing something better.
It's almost like you feel that pain firsthand. And that's maybe part of your superpower in this space. You know exactly what you want to see. And now you're in a position where you really own it, as you put it.
Yeah. So that's a big thing for us.
What's been the proudest day so far that you've had?
I'd probably say that every time that we're getting to a new milestone, it's like the best and the worst day. The moment that you see that the goal that you set is actually achievable, you hadn't reached it yet, but you can feel it. And it might be a quarter away, but you can actually say, you know what, I'm in the right trajectory to get there. That's the high. The low is when you know you're getting to that point, because you know a second afterwards, the next goal is going to hit you. And the next goal is not going to be like, okay, we moved from $10 million to 20, it's going to be from 20 to 50. So the next one is like way higher. And then you're just like, I have no idea how to do that one. You start planning it and the math doesn't make sense and everything's like, it's broken. It's like you need to scrape yourself from the floor and start from the beginning. And every founder that I had this conversation with goes through this journey and say, yes, it happens in a few interesting points. And once you do that, it's like you get rolling and somehow it's working. Nobody understands this equation, but it's really about being out there, trying every day, putting your best effort into it, and hopefully some luck will help you.
Maybe something about being at the right place at the right time.
Yes. I mean, luck, maybe I underestimated it. It's like you don't need a bit of luck, you need a lot of luck.
In the beginning of the show, we mentioned there is a lot of noise. There are a lot of different pain points that we could be solving in the industry. And Neatsun, you mentioned that it's important to have those conversations with your customers in order to distill away all of the noise and focus on what actually matters. The actual pain points that, if solved, will deliver huge benefit. What does this process look like for YSecurity and your partners?
Usually it starts with a very basic question, which is, what are you trying to achieve? I know it's very mundane, but just getting to a very crystal answer on this one, it's usually a very hard exercise. So let's do this exercise right now, saying, let's imagine an imaginary company. They have, let's just throw numbers, 1,000 employees. The company is 20 years old. They've got internet exposure, and this is how they're making a lot of money. And now you're saying, okay, what are you trying to achieve? So the basic answer is simply, I don't want any risks. And that is usually a bad answer. It's like, you will need to accept risks, and you kind of need to understand, where is it that you feel comfortable? So if you imagine this as a line between, it's like, I'm going to invest zero and expect zero, and I'm going to expect a lot and pay for it a lot. Usually most companies say, you know what, I feel comfortable in this zone. It's like, I understand I need to do something. I don't want to pay too much for this. I kind of have like 3 people to put on the problem and this amount of budget. And now what's the best you can do for me? It's like, great, but that's not a good answer. It's like, how are you measuring this? And then they would say, okay, it's backlog. It's like, okay, how many items do you have right now in the backlog? It's like 1 million. It's like, 1 million is good or bad? It's like, bad. Like, what a good number it looks like. Like 500,000 is good. And you start actually with this process of saying, how does good and bad look like? And most understand really early into the process that the AppSec program is a way to reduce the risk. It's not canceling the risk. There is always going to be a risk. And the best thing you can do is just think smart about what's probable, what's going to hit you, how am I engaging with the developer to actually fix it? Because if I'm just saying to you, hey, you know what, this problem is here, it's going to be deployed into the cloud and expose those vulnerabilities, and I already see that the infrastructure in the cloud that you're running on top is really not secure. So all of this is going to create for you some kind of an exposure. You see this and saying, this is very good. I've got great detection. But then nobody's actually picking up the phone and fixing that. You haven't done anything really. It's like, you've got great visibility. Amazing. Now you actually need to fix this. Now, fixing I know it sounds very easy, but you need to go to a developer that has product managers, Jira backlog, performance issues, UI issues, customers, and you say, oh, I need you right now to stop everything and fix a million issues. Like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And I see a lot of the teams actually started thinking about it, saying, oh, how do we get them engaged? Why don't we create a program that we're doing the developer of the month and giving like a small prize? And they start thinking about it. And the program evolves to saying, okay, it's not just about a million issues anymore. It's about how do I drive execution on where I want to draw the attention? How do I focus my attention in understanding what is important and then making sure the right person is actually associated with it? This becomes a very interesting task for most. And when I'm looking on where are we part of this journey? So in some customers, we're helping them even with understanding how does this journey look like? How did others create amazing achievements? For others, it's a different journey, saying, okay, I just need to pass SOC 2. This is everything I need to do. It's like, I don't care more than that. Just get me through this. And great, if you just need to do that, for now, all you have to do is like check the box on those 5 things. Easy. The year afterwards is saying, okay, I just need to add one more component. So great, let's do this, let's add that. So everybody has a different risk profile, and we're just helping them with this journey.
But at the end of the day, it needs to be aligned with business initiatives. And the question is, who is your economical buyer at that point in the company's journey? So this hypothetical company, it has 1,000 employees, and it sounds like what you're saying, it's important to understand what is a specific pain point that this company has at this point in time and focus on solving that pain point with business-driven KPIs, or you need some type of metrics to evaluate how successful it is.
So I would say that the economic buyer in larger companies is usually the CISO of the organization, and the technical evaluator and the people that actually need to work on the system are more on the AppSec and DevSecOps guys. But the guys that need to solve the problem are actually from engineering and DevOps. So you've got this flow from strategic to operational to actually hammering down issues one by one. And if you think about it, when developers see issues, even engineering managers, they are not equipped to understand what is important versus what is not important. Some of them are taking this and saying, this is a great opportunity to learn security. They would just type into ChatGPT and saying, what is this CSRF? What does it mean? It's like, this is the first time that they're encountering this concept. Or SQLI. What does the I stand for? Oh, it's SQL injection. I heard this term before. So it's about getting to the place saying we need to train people. We need to educate them. But this is mission impossible. You're training your developers, and within a year, a third of them moved away and you've got somebody else to train. So it's mission impossible to constantly be in this loop. And I think that there's smarter and better ways to do this right now.
So what's the smarter and better way to do it?
I think that as we're entering the vibe coding era, what we are seeing is that everybody's becoming a manager. When you're doing right now vibe coding, unlike what we had a year ago, where it wasn't vibe coding, it was like you're giving commands. And now you're just describing intent. And some of the recent enhancement is like do more than intent, create a policy or a structure, and we'll work within the boundaries. And I think that as we're evolving and saying we're actually taking concepts from how development teams work and start using AI to think about them as multi-agent that builds the task, verifies the task, adds analysts to it. It's like the more we think about it, the more it becomes more interesting. And this is also an opportunity to take pieces of the AppSec, CloudSec, product security mentality and actually say, hey, maybe an agent on our behalf should be part of this game as well. Maybe part of the things that we really wanted to do always as part of security is make sure that you've got a threat model for everything. But that was always like a futile exercise. Like you're doing this and the implementation was never similar to the original design. And maintaining this becomes harder. Maybe now we've got a different shot saying, hey, why don't we just give guidelines and somebody will go over the assumptions that we have and we'll see how reality faces the design. And maybe we can actually guide the vibe coding agent to do something better, smarter, that takes into account many more things and ignores drift in code. There's so many different ways to think about this problem.
Yeah, I love it. It's taking all of the advancement that we have at our disposal today through AI and applying it directly to these difficult problems that we face day in and day out as security professionals.
Exactly. I think we're getting to this age where a part of our mind is going to be on not just doing things, but articulating them as a context in a very clear and precise way that somebody can take this context from us or process from us and actually implement it, and allowing us to move one layer higher in focusing on the design, on the concepts, on iterating and verifying. I think this is going to be one of the fastest and most impressive transformations in an industry that I've ever seen.
As you look into that future, what do you think will be the most difficult new security challenge that we'll face as a community?
It's a very good question. I'll try to do it with an analogy. If you recall, when mobile started, then everybody were super afraid from mobile malware. And then basically the owners of the platform kind of said, you know what, we own this. We will make sure that the stores are clean from issues. And every time that there's a security issue, we will patch an update and owned up to it. Unlike, let's say, Windows at the time, that were simply not in the game. Not in the same way that the mobile operating system manufacturer were. As they evolved, they said, you know what, this is something that we own. Now, it really depends where the industry is going on that front. The challenge for the mobile application is they owned everything. They owned the decision, the store, the operating system. They knew everything. When you think about code and cloud deployment, well, first of all, you don't have the context. You don't own everything. You actually own the repo that you're working on right now. So this creates a context problem. Now, giving enough context, you can solve any problem. And the challenge we're going to have is, how do we augment more and more context into writing the right code? Because think about it, with the right context, you solve everything. With the wrong context, you're going to get hallucinations. So you kind of need to be in a very good spot for that one.
Yeah. I mean, that reflects a leadership style that speaks very closely to myself. When you have a team, if you're just barking orders and giving commands about what to do, you're really like violating autonomy. But if you set up a situation where through the context of what's going on, you share like the difficult problems that we're trying to solve with that context, you're respecting people's autonomy to allow them to go off and think about how to solve problems. And it sounds like a very similar analogy in the agentic space, where if you can provide and use the context appropriately and position that in a way where you can get value from it. You used a word too, augment, which is one of my favorite words these days. And it really goes back to this idea of maybe like enhancing the things that we're already doing as humans instead of like replacing humans.
I had this conversation a few days ago saying, what's the difference between fraud and cyber? Is fraud cyber? And somebody told me a sentence that just placed everything in place with saying, so cyber, it's more about abuse of system, where fraud is more of an abuse of trust. Now, it's a very nice distinction. And I think that as we're taking this to the AI sense, I think we are going to face a lot of challenges. As we've seen them, it's like, okay, can I do like the equivalent of a VM escape to the basic instruction set that the agent gets? How do I hard code things? How do I make sure that the trust giving to the agent is actually enforced? And we're going to face a lot of those issues. I'll give you something that our research team found. I think it was already published, but if not, I'm sure I'm not doing anything. But let's say that you just go to GitHub and you publish the equivalent of a typo squatting. And in this typo squatting, you're actually adding a command that one of the famous vibe coding environment just treats as, hey, if it's on the machine, then I'm fine with it. Then you can instruct it to actually say, you know what, write a malware locally that takes everything from the machine, just uploads it. So when you think about this concept, saying, I'm actually recycling things that you trust. It's a name that I think that I've trust. Downloading this package, yes, I've mistaken with a hyphen, but I got this by mistake. I've got this environment that I trust because it's really doing good for me. And the combination of trusting this and trusting this is really a bad idea. I think that we're going to find a lot of those edge cases that you think about one solution, it's fine. You combining two things that you trust, I'm sure that we're going to find a lot of quirks over there.
I mean, stuff like that to me is exciting. We could think through a new problem space as security professionals, as a security community.
We talked a little bit about agents. We talked about application, the new threat model, the new surface attacks. And with AI, it's pretty common concept and pretty common acceptance that AI allows attacker to be a lot more nimble. How do you see the defense side of the house? So you have red team, you have blue team. How does the blue team can take advantage of all of the innovative advancements that happen on the application layer, or maybe infrastructure, and maybe outer layer?
It is my opinion. I haven't proven it yet, but it actually increases the asymmetry between the attackers and the defenders. Think about token economy for a second. So in token economy, every intent that you have costs you something. Let's say tokens. Now, for a defender, you're always looking for a lot of data, and inside of it, you're looking for weak signals or anomalies. Attacker is using this to actually scramble everything with a very, very cheap effort. Meaning, what is a cheap effort? You can actually say, you know what? Take my code and scramble it so it won't look the same. It would cost you a few tokens, a few millions of tokens, nothing big. It's like $10. Really for a deep work. Then think about a defender for a second. They need to do it for everything, but most of it is not malicious by intent. Like, I think that one of the research that I've seen is mostly that internet traffic contains like 0.3% of malicious content or unwanted content. I think that was the definition. And as part of it, it actually puts a very, very, very high cost on the defender if you're going to do it in a very naive way. Now, on the other hand, one of the things that we are doing is saying, look, if you want to find things in code and I need to scan code with AI, that's going to cost me a lot of money. So I can use it just for edge cases and to prefabricate patterns. So instead of human analysts actually working on generating hundreds of what we call signatures, we can really automate this loop and just say, hey, what is the odd cases? And start balancing the equation, saying, okay, I've scanned something for the first time. I want to see there's nothing anomalous in this one. And I would just balance the cost, saying most of the time I'm going to do pattern-based. Periodically, I'm going to do like a deep scan. And you need to start thinking about things in a different way. I don't think that we've figured this one out. And in every field of security, this is going to look completely different. Some of the fields are taking it to response, for example. You're saying we're doing the scrubbing using basic signatures. As we're moving up, we're investing more and more to get it from a possible to verified. So, exciting world.
It's changing so quickly and changing in ways I'm sure like even we'll be surprised in 6 months. I'm convinced of that. But, looking the other direction just for a moment, I'm really curious. If you had the opportunity to meet your younger self, would you take that opportunity? And what advice might you have for yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. For the second part, I kind of know, but the first question, it's a very good question. You meet yourself, then your younger self actually knows how your older self is going to be. So am I actually eliminating timelines that, I don't know, it's a very tricky question.
You're changing yourself, but in a way that would like maybe result in a different version of yourself, which also there's a self-acceptance piece to this question that's like very maybe uncomfortable for folks that are very comfortable in themselves.
Yeah, so it's a very good question. I think that yes, it will definitely augment my previous self. I'm not sure that the law of unintended consequences will actually be in my favor in this case. So I don't know.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Okay, so if you had an opportunity to meet someone very similar to your younger self, that's definitely not you, would you have any advice for them?
I think that beside the obvious cheating of saying, hey, tomorrow's talk is going to go up and just, of course, this is not an advice to anybody, but I would probably say, at least in our space, I would probably say that it's really about taking risks. And while keeping it safe makes a lot of sense, part of this journey is really about taking the risk and be able to go to sleep and actually sleep. It's not that easy as it sounds. And self-acceptance is definitely something that I know that a lot are struggling with.
I love the piece on risks. It resonates really well with a lot of my life experiences. And I'm a motorcycle rider. So every time you jump on one of those things, it's a ginormous risk, but I just couldn't imagine life without it. But that doesn't mean you need to be stupid, right? You can always put on armor. There's this saying like, all the gear all the time, which kind of goes along with our discussion around like security. We don't need to take astronomical risks, but you need to be prepared for the inevitable.
There are advantages definitely for my motorcycle, for sure. Not necessarily in the wintertime.
Sasha, you ride motorcycles too, right?
Occasionally. I was going to say that isn't that is what security all about? It's managing the risk. It's a scale. It's in any product, security is usually there for a reason, and that reason is to protect the crown jewels and protect the business. But it's a scale in a sense that we have to be very careful about how much of the overhead security can add. Because oftentimes security can be seen as an overhead. It can be seen as the slowdown of innovation or slowdown of the business, or where business wants to go. And I think, Neatsun, you touched on this. It's very important that security is an integral part that is very seamless. It shouldn't introduce friction, but rather it should add value while being very seamlessly integrated in the background.
I've got like similar but a bit different perspective. So usually it's not the security that is slowing the business. It's a vague decision to do something or to block something because of a past experience or regulation or fear that prevents you to do something from great. I had the opportunity to talk with a few CISOs that went into the regulator and say, hey, look, this is a really, really bad idea. I want to explain to you, this is not what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do instead. This is actually a better risk profile, even though it sounds just on the surface as a bad idea. It's actually a very, very good idea because, and if you've got the strategy taking you from here's what I want to achieve, but I'm going to imply not the obvious interpretation, but something that is relevant to me because I've got compensating control as part of, or I do have several places that I can do things in a different way and not just go through the naive way, you can get to great places. The amount of places that I've seen security just adding things by themselves that weren't required by the business. Nobody from security enjoys getting those feedback saying, you're slowing me down, you're doing this. Security has a role in the company saying, yes, we're scaling. Yes, we're bringing a lot of people and we really don't want to do dumb things. So we can't tailor security to every person in different. So we're trying to put like a generic security for everybody saying, for most people, this should work. And this is the most cost-effective thing that we can do, placing security at a 300 people to 1 ratio, let's say. Now, if you had security in a 1 to 50 ratio, hey, you can do way better than that one. But most of us don't have this luxury. I think somebody told me a sentence like 20-something years ago, and I'm still chewing on that sentence. And it said, life is all about managing expectations. And that's like the end of the sentence. And the more you think about this sentence, it's like, it makes perfect sense. And that's it.
Well said.
This is definitely something to noodle on. Definitely. I've heard a similar sentence, or your sentence reminds me of this one, is that everything is temporary.
It is.
I feel so philosophical right now. I think it's important that we have these sorts of discussions and we have them as a community and we think about them individually and we noodle on these, especially as we undergo such rapid change, right? So we can navigate that together.
I think we touched on a very important subject multiple times during the show, and that is security, cybersecurity compliance initiatives have to be aligned with business and mid-business needs where they are today and not overthink them 5 years out. Just like we said, there are a lot of pain points that we have to solve in security and compliance space, but it needs to be timely, just like a lot of things in life.
I've got the obvious answer and the more complicated answer. I'll go to identity as a field. I think there are a lot of identity tricks that you can do, but most of them, if you don't think about them long-term, saying what is the right investment for us long-term, and you're putting this investment up front, you're going to pay dearly for this later on. It's migrations and thinking about connecting system. So some of the places you do need to invest ahead of time, even though you're gambling, you're taking a bigger solution than you need right now with the understanding that, hey, this is not like the ultimate solution that a company 10x from us will do. But we're going to move to that space. And if I'm not doing the right investment right now, when I'll get to that place, I'm going to be above the size that the current solution can provide to me. And migration is going to be very painful, and painful not in the cost sense. In this needs to be prioritized over another project that I want. And you're basically saying, oh, I need to do this again. So I'm going to waste a quarter in a year and a half from now when I'm going to be too big for the current solution. So it's a balancing equation saying, yes, there is a need right now, but I do need to think right now a step, maybe 2 steps down the road saying, I'm okay with gambling on 3 years from now, saying who knows what technology is going to be in 3 years, who's going to be the right vendor for us within 3 years. So 3 years, yes, I'm fine with gambling on solution that is fine right now. Gambling on 18 months, I don't know. It's a very delicate balancing question.
Yeah, I love that. There's a time and a place for everything, and understanding like where that is and where those lines are and what sort of investments are important. Neatsun, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for all of those vulnerable and very deep moments that we get to share together.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Neatsun.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And a huge thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to another episode of the Security Podcast of Silicon Valley. I'm one of the hosts, John McLaughlin, is joined with Sasha Sinkovich, and this is a YSecurity production. Thank you, everyone. Oh, and like and subscribe and share with your friends and repost. And if you'd like to participate in the conversations, please do so. Comments and likes most appreciated if you feel they're warranted. So huge thank you, everyone. One last thing before you go. Think about who you were 20 minutes ago. Maybe security's been that thing that's on your roadmap, that thing that you'll get to right after the next sprint, the thing that you'll get to after the raise or after something. But here's the truth. SOC 2 and ISO, these things are not just checkbox. They're keys. It unlocks enterprise deals. It opens up regulated industries. It's the difference between selling to a 10-person startup and closing Fortune 500s. That's where YSecurity comes in. We don't just advise, we build. SOC 2, ISO, done right the first time. 40 plus engineers from Apple, Uber, Microsoft, Robinhood, Brex. This is not guesswork for us. This is all we do. And maybe you're not the one who needs this, but you know a founder who does. The one trying to break into bigger markets, the one doing the 0 to 1 thing. Send them our way. We have an awesome referral program. We pay for introductions that turn into partnerships. So head to ysecurity.io/startups. The first 8 hours are free. 40 engineers, 1 full working day entirely on us. YSecurity has your back. See you in the next episode.